JB here. Hope everyone's doing an outstanding Tuesday, September 2nd, 9:10 a.m. Apologies for the late start. Talk really quick about markets. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures in the red. S&P down about 1.2% if we open right now. Over the long holiday weekend, continuation from Friday. Uh, so some things, big, busy week. I'm not as busy as some of the weeks we've had, but obviously the start of the month, right? September, a historically weak performing month. I was talking about last week. This is the same chart from last week, performance wise, 0.7% to the downside, and it closes red 46% of the time. And then you go to look at the last 6 years of September performance, and besides last year, when we were up 2%, 2023 down nearly 5%, 2022 down nearly 9%. That was Fed Chair Powell's higher for longer speech at Jackson Hole, kind of just caused some pain at the end of the year. 2021 down nearly 5%, 2020 down nearly 4%. You would hope we can buck the trend. Maybe we will, but it seems like all those all the things that haven't been talked about, it's like they bring up a new possible catalyst for downside. So Friday after the close, you had an appeals court rule that the tariffs were illegal. So now it's going to go to Supreme Court. That'll go till October. Who knows what's going to happen with that? I don't think there's going to be anything substantial, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. Then you also have this week data, right? So we have ISM and PMI today, 9:45 and 10 a.m. I don't know how much that'll move markets, but the big piece is going to be the jobs report come Friday. So all eyes on that. I think it's a 73,000 jobs created estimates, and then the unemployment rate sticking at 4.2%. It just seems like markets in near highs. There's not really much in positive catalyst. We have earnings season kind of getting coming to a close. We do have Broadcom this week. There's other names. I have to get those as well. But it just, slippery slope. So now you have the government shutdown looming. I think that's September 30th. And then you have a debt situation in the UK. So debt yields in the UK are hitting 30-year highs, or 40-year highs, something like that. The US 30-year is getting near 5%. So all these things that we got behind us, it's like they bring these back, bring these catalysts back to the forefront that have kind of been hiding there. So it's like we get over some of these headwinds, and then here's the next headwinds. And tough this week, right? So I normally have my ranges on the SPY. You start looking at last week. So last week's low, I think, was 641.75, but then you go to the previous Friday, 637. We're right here at 637 on the SPY. So that'll be a big spot. Then down to 633, and then you have to worry about that 50-day moving average, which we haven't breached for quite some time. Well, obviously back in April, but there it is at 629. So I don't have my bear suit on, but I'm like I was last week. I'm just cautious, right? And it's going to be a little tough here at the open to try and get hedge positions because the premium is going to be jacked on the weekly strikes. So I'll probably be patient. The only, I guess the good thing here is I didn't load calls into this week, so there'll be some things on sale, I guess you would say, and then hopefully find some footing here today. I'm going to be cautious this week. I think there's going to be opportunity on both sides, but I just have to think maybe there's going to be gravity is going to pull us down to that 50-day moving average. So I'm more open for that for now, and then find some more direction. If we pull under 629, then you got to start these other levels that we've had to play. But I'm always cautiously optimistic. So I don't have the chart up, but the performance we've had so far this year usually bodes well for more gains into the end of the year outside of September. All right, so that's kind of overall markets. And then the small cap situation I was talking about pretty much the same time last week. Well, last week was Monday, but I was talking about small caps outperforming. They did, despite the pull on Friday. Just hopefully they can outperform the pull today, right? And you take a look at small caps, they're down exactly identical to the NASDAQ, 1.4%. So we'll see if we get a bounce here today. U.S. dollar stronger, yields are soaring, so we'll see how this all plays out here today. Hopefully, profit taking, reset button, and then markets can find some footing. Broadcom, great hedge trade on Friday. Got those puts at the open, closed some out to cover costs, and then was able to scale out for a couple 100% into the end of the day. That was the only trade I made on Friday. They have earnings Thursday after the close. The premiums are nuts. Lulu reports this week too. I mean, you got to go up to 280 strikes on Lulu. Maybe if it gets on sale today, I might look for some spec calls on Lulu. But I was trying to look over the weekend, do some some thinking on Lulu. And I'm like, maybe Lulu is like Under Armour, right? If you remember Under Armour back in the day, it was like the craze. It's the next Nike. It was going to be like the biggest athletic apparel, just a cult following. And then it just kind of matured. And now you see what Under Armour. It's still not a great company. It's just similar with Lulu. I mean, nuts. And I remember I always use this parallel between them acquiring that mirror, right? They were getting into the fitness. Then they did a partnership with Peloton in regards to their apparel. And then it's like these companies, and they always used to, you watch some like the Costco's and some of these discount retailers, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Lulu products are in Costco. And then that's like kind of, I would say, the beginning and the end. So when I look at Lulu, I'm like, maybe it's going to be one of those value companies, and maybe it's the days of seeing $300, $400 price target is done. So I might just stay away for now and wait for the earnings. All right, so that's overall marks. So just individual names. I'm probably more skewed to downside today. So if I'm looking for some names, and I've obviously Broadcom's kind of out of the picture. AMD has already took it on the chin, so it might be tough to trade that one. I might look at some of the other names. I mean, Visa's obviously the easy name that I've always looked over the past. Even last week with the weakness on Friday, it was up 0.5% despite the market S&P falling. So at some point that's going to pull 335. 335 is kind of like the target area, so we'll see. 200-day moving average is at 338. Name I haven't traded, right? PLTR. You see it's chopping around. I mean, Citron's been on the put side. I think his bear case playing out is more just the market as opposed to being his, or the timing it perfectly, right? It just seemed like a perfect timing, but it's been churning in the last 2 weeks. And now you look, is the next leg to the upside or the downside? And if the market pulls, I think it trades down to 135. It's right at that 50-day moving average. So I don't want to get my bear suit on this one. This is a name like if you had fought PLTR over this. I remember looking at $30. I've been saying this for the last year or so. I remember looking at that. I'm like $30. It trades like 20 or 50 times. I forget what it traded when it was $30, and I'm like, wow, there's no way. It just kept going and going and going. So I always try to stay away from names that go against me, that it just don't make sense to me. But now I can kind of make a little more sense here that, hey, maybe there's an opportunity, at least for a short-term pull, maybe this week. So that would be another name. And then Hood, right? And back in the day, I used to trade these exchanges, the CMEs, the intercontinental exchanges, right? Because they're a business that's always getting money, right? The transaction fees and stuff. And Hood's a little different because now as the landscape has changed, people don't get charged the commissions and the fees and all that stuff. It's a little different way getting to monetize. But I mean, now you see, I mean, uh, let's see here. Yeah, well, Bitcoin's up. It was up over 2% before. It's up 1%. But even with that, it's gapping down here this morning. So it's right at its 50-day moving average, 101. I'm not saying this not a $150 stock by the end of the year or into next year. Just think there might be short-term opportunities. So those are kind of names that I might nibble some spec puts. I'm not loading the boat. I don't think there's I'm not playing for a crash. I just, if I'm going to do some opportunities this week, and I might sit on my hands too, who knows today. But if I see some opportunities, those might be some names. Flip side, CGC after the close Friday, it was just a rehashing of their $200 million offering at the start of the year. So nothing there. I think they just kicked the can down in regards to the dating maturity of it. So surprising. I mean, it's selling off. It's probably just need an excuse, but only a matter of time for this reclassification of marijuana happens. Same with IIPR. We'll see how it holds up here today. Not a lot of volume on that one, but a decent session on Friday despite the market weakness. When I say decent, it was actually in the green. And then also a line, right? At some point, this thing takes off. Look at these 3 straight doji candles. I mean, this could set up for downside, but you got a tight Bollinger Band set up too on a line. So this could be the week. If the market finds footing at all, this could be a name that just sparks off to the races. SERV Robotics under 11 here this morning. Disappointing. I'll just be patient there, but at some point I'll look for some more strikes. And that's it. If things get crazy, I'll be back on audio later. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.